Hello, 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 and welcome to Soul Citizens. We are back another Sunday evening to be back with you to share with you our thoughts on the game Star Citizen. I'm Griffin Gaming RPG, and I have a host of wonderful people here today, very knowledgeable people. We're going to be talking about a new series we're starting called Starships. And each month we're going to do something about the ships in Star Citizen. As a lot of you guys know, we're getting ready to go into 3.9, and you may have friends who are interested in getting into the game. So we figured this might be kind of a cool time to go back and talk about those starter ships, those ships that folks kind of get into the game with. So, but first, let me go around the room and introduce everybody. Fastcart, why don't you start us out?
Hello, I'm fastcart, also known as FC. Test squadron member, moderator for different channels, a whole bunch of other stuff, relay, desktop, captain table. Yeah, you all know that stuff anyway.
Fastcart is the ambassador for Star Citizen. And directly across from him, we have GreenEyedGyal, Gigi.
Hello, I'm Gigi. Test squad is the best squad. You guys know me. You've seen me a couple of times. So welcome back to the show.
Okay. Gigi, give me a little bit more volume on your mic if you can, or either speak up because you're just a little soft. And but you're kind of soft spoken. You got to talk over me and Kemi. You know we are all loud, so you got to talk louder than us. All right. And last but not least, the man himself, the book of knowledge of Star Citizen, KEMI65.
KEMI65 07, everybody. Definitely that, and definitely considered the blue collar guy for the gameplay mechanics out there. It's all about that bottom line, and you have to go and chase it, courtesy of Tony Z. So yeah, we're definitely expecting that 3.9 anytime next week. So glad to be here, y'all.
You know, sometimes I wonder who you would enjoy talking with most, Chris or Tony. If I had to ask you that, which one would be the one that you would, if you could have 30 minutes, who would you pick?
Ooh.
Look at him. He's about to blow a fuse. That's a hard one, boy. That's a hard one. You favor one, Kemi? Or you could go either way.
I would have to say my quick answer to that is yes.
Okay. Hey, there you go. There you go. Safe answer. Safe answer. Safe and smart answer. Okay.
No, what I was thinking the whole time when he was thinking about that, I was thinking about the girl that said, "Why not both?"
Oh, there you go.
That's right. We want it all in this game. We're getting it all.
All right. Well, that was a very intelligent answer, Kimmy. Very smart and wise answer. Okay. Well, listen, folks. Again, thanks for tuning in tonight. Like we said, today we're going to be talking about starter ships. I know this is a bit of a throwback, but we've been doing a lot of retrospective shows the last couple of weeks. We went back to GDC in 2012. We went back to CitizenCon in 2013. But now we're going to kind of look at how this whole thing got started, particularly with ships, and ships seem to be the big subject when it comes to Star Citizen. We're going to show you several videos. They'll be in two parts when you watch them. So the first ship we're going to be covering is the Aurora. And we are going to show you the original commercial or advertisement for it, the marketing piece that was done for it. And then immediately following it, it'll go into what was probably, usually they would do a remake or a rebuild on these ships. So the first one, I think it starts in 2013. And I think you see the remake in 2018, something like that. But the date is always there. So just always remember the first version of the commercials, what you're going to see. Then you'll see the later, once they've done the rework on the ship. So without further ado, let's get into the very first ship, which is the Aurora.
So I was looking at the new Aurora, but then I was thinking, maybe I should get something that looks a little classy. But then I was like, no, I need something that can pull some serious weight. Maybe I don't need all that cargo space. What about the Legionnaire? Now we're talking. How about some bigger guns? Little bigger. No, little bigger. There you go. And maybe some rockets, too. Actually, I should probably upgrade the power plant. I did like the leather seats on that LX, though. Yeah, perfect. All right, let's see what this baby can do. bigger cargo.
RSI's Aurora. There are many like it, but this one is yours.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about what we saw, the Aurora series. Kimmy's got the little background on the ships, and we'll talk about them. I think there were 5 of them that were listed. Let me ask you this. From the first commercial, were you guys impressed to want to buy one, or was it until you saw the second one? Because the second one made me want to buy one. I don't know about you guys. What do you think?
Definitely the second one. I probably would not have purchased off that first commercial.
Well, it goes back.
I'm
Yeah.
sure that.
Go ahead, Kimmy. What are you going to say?
Well,
Well-
Montoya gave everyone in Test Squadron a mandate to have at least one Aurora, so we all have to have one.
That's right.
Other than that,
That is the
Other
official
than that,
ship of
yeah.
Test Squadron, right, Fastcart? This is the
Exactly.
official, I
He's
think.
talking about the blot out the sun.
That's right. We're going to
The
blot
Aurora
out the
was
sun.
first
10,000.
What'd you say, Gigi?
The Aurora was the first ship I ever had.
Oh, okay. So you did start out with a starter ship then. Okay. Did you guys start out with starter ships, or did you jump over the hurdle and go right into something else? Fastcart, what about you? Did you start with a starter? Or did you jump?
my first ship was the B-15P.
Oh, you went big time. Okay. All right. What about you, Kimmy?
No, I went bigger than that. Like a week after that, I melted the B-15P and got a physical package for the translation toys.
So you didn't wait. Kimmy, what about you? What was it? Did you buy a starter ship in the beginning, or did you jump right in?
Well, real story right here. Back since September 20th, 2013. Real story here. I pieced together Wing Commander and Chris Roberts. By that time, it was too late. The Kickstarter had already jumped ahead. It was already in motion. So I had to have a LTI package ship. So what I did, I reached out to a community member, and they had access to LTI. And my very first starter ship was the Andromeda constellation. And as a gift, I gifted him, that person, a constellation. And with it, at that time, when I brought the package, I automatically had the Aurora LN as the throw-in. It was free. And that was one of the ships that stood out as far as Robert Space Industry was concerned. That LN had those beefed up shields and those extra missiles.
Okay.
And I love that olive green color and gold. So
Okay.
that was my story right there.
So that's how you ended up
my
getting an
first
Aurora.
experience.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So let's talk about the Aurora class ships. The first one being, I think it's the ES. Was the ES around in the very beginning, you all? Because I feel like there were only 4 in the beginning, right? Right, there was only 4 in the beginning, and then they added the ES later. And I think, what does the ES stand for? It's in the description. It's an Esquire, or it's each one of those codes, CLES. They all have something. Kimmy, I don't know if you see it in the description on the RSI page, but they each have their own. Like LX is luxury,
Yes.
LN is Legionnaire.
Legionnaire.
Yeah, I
I
can't.
think the ES is
CL is
Explorer.
cargo something.
I know, because I know that the MR is considered a light fighter.
Merchant. I think
Merchant.
that's merchant. Yeah.
Okay.
Cargo capacity.
Okay. So, each one of these ships, it's interesting that when Chris started this out, each one of these ships, even though they looked very similar, they all had a certain purpose in the universe.
Yes.
I remember for me, I didn't really look at the LN. A lot of people were into the Legionnaire. at that time in the early days, I looked at the CL. I think that was like the first one I bought because I was interested in doing cargo running. So it was a little bit of a disappointment when I got it and found out that there was no place to put cargo. But that was the one I went with. Gigi, which one? Do you remember which one you had?
I don't actually.
Thanks for the follow, Nubifier. Good to see you.
Thank you for the follow.
Dude,
Thanks for the host.
you need that set.
Oh, is that a host? Oh, host. Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Oh, very nice. Thank you. No, I honestly don't remember because I don't have it anymore. I upgraded it to a Titan.
Ah, okay. Didn't last long.
Hey, Griffin. Let me dial it back to what you were mentioning
Uh-huh.
as far as the variants. ES is going to be your Pathfinder.
But what does it say the name of it is? So does it say ES? It says specifically
Aurora
what it stands
ES,
for.
that's your starter Pathfinder.
No, but
Then
there's
the
no. But
LX.
no, I'm asking what does ES stand for? There's actually it's like it means something like Esquire. Let me see if I can dig it up. Go ahead and finish reading now. I'll dig it up while you're looking.
I'm digging it in now. I'm dialing it in now.
Let's say
It's
Esquire.
the
That sounds reasonable.
Does it sound reasonable?
Pathfinder, it's more akin to the exploration part of that ship. And then you have the LX. That's the luxury.
Right.
And then you
I thought it
have
was
the
deluxe.
MR, which is a light fighter. The CL is
Essential.
thrown in.
Essential. Thank you,
Fastcart?
Fastcart. Essential. There it is.
Thank you.
Essential?
EBA.
Okay.
Thank you,
EBA.
Nice.
EB. Thank you, EB. You're very helpful.
The CL is your light freighter, and the LN, again, that's your light fighter in that category.
Okay, CL is Clipper. Thank you, Nubifier. There we go.
The CL.
All right, there we go.
And Legionnaire for LN.
Right, and then MR,
And
I forget
is
what
the
that
Marquis.
is. Marquis, there
That's
we go.
Marquis. Right.
Thank
Yes.
you. There we go. So to those
It's been
people,
so long since I've dealt with those ships, I forgot all about that.
and that's why I was mentioning them because a lot of
LX
times,
is your deluxe.
yeah, we say those names all the time, but a lot of times people have forgotten that they actually did stand for certain things. Again, Chris was definitely thinking about these ships having a certain role, not just one ship that was multi-purpose, but they all have their own role, which was great. I remember there was a lot of anticipation when they did do the rework on the Aurora because the Aurora was kind of disappearing off of the scene. A lot of folks were kind of moving up to the bigger ships and everything. I'll tell you a secret. I have an LX and I still fly my Aurora when when I don't want to get shot at, I fly my Aurora because nobody cares. That's how I feel about it.
I had the LX for a while, but I think I CCU'd it to something bigger and better a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, the snobbery in me bought it because it said luxury. You know how I am about my luxury ships. So it had LX in it. It had brown leather seats. Okay, yeah, we got to get it, even though it's a little.
Yeah, the thing I do like about the Aurora is that you can switch around different seats and stuff like that. So I would probably put a LN or LX seat and an MR or something like that.
Yeah,
leather seats. Yeah, that was a big deal. Leather seats.
Now, let me say this also about starter ships. A lot of people feel that starter ships are not going to have a place in the game. I still feel, and you guys give me some feedback on this, there's a part of me that feels that when the game starts, even though people may want to take out bigger ships in the beginning, once they start to see what the operating costs are and the risk factors, they're going to dial back to smaller ships. What do you guys think? Do you think that's going to be prevalent, or do you think people are just going to still take their big Connies and everything else out?
Yeah, for me, my plan is to park my merchantmen in orbit someplace safe, and then use a 315 or something like that to do other stuff.
Yeah.
And Gigi, you went up. You said Avenger. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, I went up to an Avenger, but I tend to prefer the smaller, lighter, more quick on their feet, agile type ships. I blow everything up that's large. I just can't land them. I can't, y'all. I have tried. It doesn't work out. But
The auto land doesn't work for you?
listen, okay.
She got to get to the Autoland area first, I think, is what she's trying to say. I don't know.
I forbid you trying to have me. Usually, there's the bigger ships, you land them in a hangar, and that is just all bad for me. Hangar landing is just a no. But now I don't think the starter ships are gonna go anywhere actually, because when I first started playing, I needed it. There is no way I could have gone out with a Connie or a Merchantman or anything of those sizes. I couldn't get off the pad more often than not. Like, you're gonna need that small, easy, you know what I mean, easy to learn. Because there's so much more on the other ships. There's so much more you have to take in. With these, there's, you know, it's a smaller amount of information to take in at one time. And when you're just starting out, if you're not careful, Star Citizen can be kind of daunting, and you don't want that. So I don't think the starter ships are going anywhere. No.
Okay, yeah. Kimmy, what about you? You were saying no, you don't think they'll be irrelevant. What were you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, shout out to the grinders out there in the game. And this is why we need persistence. You have those players, a huge number of players that want to start from nothing and work their way up to having something, and to show that they want to have that. They want to have that history. They want to see that work, that effort. That when they go from the Aurora or to a larger ship, they have a sense of accomplishment that they want to have in that experience. So persistence is needed for that, because you have a lot of grinders who want to just start from just zero and just work their way up and see, and then look behind and see where they came from as far as those accomplishments. So yeah, the grinders in the game, that's a niche for them. That why this is still important in the game, grinding and starting from zero.
And to your point, Nubifier mentions here, he says, I wish CIG would let us start without a ship, just a game package and 2500 UEC, I know. But there are people who do feel that way, that they would just like to start from scratch, literally maybe earn their way in game. And I understand that the desire to do that. That's why I think that people are going to dial back. You know, a lot of times people are so worried about people who've bought these big ships and they're going to come in the game and be able to dominate. You know, half these big ships, the multi-crew ships, the reality of it is when you take them out, they need to be crewed. You can go out there if you want to. Right. But it's a cost. It's an operating cost. There's a risk factor. My thing is risk versus reward. Taking a ship out, you look good. But for some people in this game, all they see is a bullseye. And if you don't have that thing with an engineer, repairman, and everything else you need, boom, it's gone. And as we know, for the bigger ships, CIG has alluded to the fact that the bigger the ship, the longer the time for it to come back from insurance. So you may be waiting hours, you may be waiting days, you know, so there's some factors there to think about too, versus a smaller ship. Go ahead,
And one more thing about the ship, the smaller ship being relevant is that, I got 2 points, is that Disco Orlando or Dread Huckabee one said that the starter ships are still the most popular ship by the back of the population. I don't remember the exact number, or if he gave me the exact numbers, but yeah, a lot of people still have Aurora, and a lot of people still have the Mustang, and don't forget, players are going to be only 1/10 or 1/9 or 1/10 of the population in the PU. So there's going to be like a whole lot of NPCs flying around with those starter ships.
There's history also tied to this aspect of the game as well. You go back to the days of Privateer, and you play Privateer. You start out with that one particular default ship, and you have to work your way up to the upgrades and the better ships in Privateer. And then Privateer 2 was headed by Aaron Roberts. So think about that. That's part of the history, and Chris having his stamp into this game with starting it.
Very good point. Very good point. Okay. If you had to pick an Aurora, Kimmy, let me start with you. Which one would you get?
LM. I said that before.
Okay.
Beefed up shields, more missiles, and the color scheme is beautiful. And you have the leather seats. So yeah, the LN, because it's you can protect yourself. And even if you have to nerf someone with all of your missiles to get away, you have that opportunity to do that and keep your cargo intact. So LN by far for me.
And let me say this too. Some of you guys remember in the early days when we didn't have all these fighter ships, the LN was a competitor against a lot of ships. There were people with LNs taking out Connies. I mean, if you're a good pilot, I mean, that's one of the things I appreciate what Chris says about this game being skill-based. This is definitely a factor. If you know how to handle a ship and know how to use it and how to set it up, you can be devastating even in an Aurora, which is great. Gigi, What about you? If you had to pick one between all the different ones, which one do you think?
Probably something cargo effective.
Okay, the CL. Yeah, CL. Okay, cool. And fast car. Go ahead.
Most of the gameplay that I do is pretty mission based.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to not like running around with nothing, no idea of what I want to be doing. So I usually like start a mission and then go from there. Let it take me someplace that, you know, gives me inspiration to do something else. But I need the cargo space because that's how I get myself started.
Very cool. Okay.
GG's definitely speaking on that versatility of the ship. Definitely.
Yep. fastcart, how about you? Which one would you grab?
See, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to say the LN, but with a big box underneath.
Okay.
Mine's going to be a freaking fan.
You're going to modify it? Well, again, the snob in me says LX. Sorry, that's the route I got to go. If I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down in style. Okay. As they said on the Titanic, we are dressed and ready to go down in style. That's how I'm going to be. So, all right.
Let's keep in mind, y'all, this is one of the single seat ships that you're able to get out of the seat in and walk around in.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah. In fact, you know, it's funny you mentioned that, Kimmy. I've trained several people in that ship. Literally gotten in with them, stood behind them, and talked them as they're learning how to land, how to fly, and everything else. And it is a great trainer.
I wouldn't want Griffin as a back seat driver.
No. Oh God.
Ep.7.
Let me just say this: when you saw me do it, the person didn't die. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. All right, I'll leave it at that.
They died of heartburn.
I'll leave it at that. Okay, so let's move on to our next ship, and we're going to move on to Consolidated Outland. Always love this commercial because we know that CIG was definitely mimicking a very popular actor in this. So let's take a quick look.
Accent. A funky accent. I like it.
We are drawn towards the familiar. It is safe, reliable. But it can shackle us to the ordinary when in our souls we long to strike out to become something new. We started with a simple mantra. Dare to dream. Dare to challenge the expectations of what's come before. To embrace the unique, to put everything on the line. Only when we risk everything can we discover something truly special and redefine what it means to travel the stars. To explore the farthest reaches. To race on the cutting edge. To protect what you love. Say goodbye to the familiar and welcome the brand new Mustang, where risk meets reward. It all started with a dream. The need to challenge the conventions of our time. To look at the well-worn path ahead and decide to take another route. What is life if not the culmination of all decisions we've made and the roads we've traveled? We decide to seek out the unknown. Or take a stand against the unjust in the universe. We are all chasing who we are, who we want to be. Which begs the question, why choose it all? Introducing the all-new Alpha, Beta, Delta, Gamma. 2948 Mustang. Dream redefined for the modern era.
Okay. All right, the good old Mustang. That was the counter to the Aurora in the beginning. Those were our only two starter ships that we had. Fastcart, why don't you talk to us a little bit about Consolidated Outland or whatever you want to share about the Mustang?
First thing, I have to say that I prefer the hair and the character's hair in the old video.
I agree.
Everything else you can keep. The hair, it's okay. But this is actually my first probably commercial because I backed in October of 2014. So I probably saw the Aurora commercial, the first one anyway. But this was the first new one that was released that I saw. So I gotta say, Bang Sting for life. I love the old classic Bang Sting. I wish they would bring them back sometime in the future. The new one is okay, but I still like the interior from the old one.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that Fastcart. Talk about that a little bit because some people may not know about what you're talking about. What happened with the transition?
No, when I say Bang Sting, I mean the Mustang Beta. The Mustang Beta is different from the other Mustang. Is that they have an interior, a livable interior where people could go in and sleep and just you could log out in the Mustang Beta, but you probably couldn't in the Alpha, Beta, or Delta. And also, on a side note, forgetting about the Mustang Omega, which is the AMD ship that you could get if you bought a graphics card and they give you a code for it. And I still want the Mustang Omega because it's a black and red ship, and those are my colors. I still want that ship. But other than that,
didn't they put it on sale? Didn't it go on sale again?
Nope. It went on sale by accident.
Oh, really? Is that what it was?
What happened? People could CCU to it by accident. Took down that ability. It was available for maybe an hour or something like that, and a whole bunch of people got it.
Okay, because I was wondering.
I missed my chance because I wasn't online at the time.
Okay.
Truly an exclusive.
Yeah, definitely. Kimmy, what about you? Do you own or have you owned any of the Mustangs at all?
Well, yes, I actually own the Mustang Gamma, which is the racing variant.
Okay.
I want to get into a little racing, but it's some interesting history with the Mustang. Going back to the old days of Wingman's Hangar, you can look that up. David Hobbins was one of the creators at CIG who actually did a hand sketch on the fly of the Mustang concept. And now he's back with Disney / LucasArts doing stuff for them. And if you look at the latest 3.9 Pillar Talk, Chris calls him out tongue in cheek. He jabs him and say, "Hey, David Hobbins stole one of our concept ideas for the Mandalorian ship."
Right.
But yeah, Mustang was one of the ships that also they had to do a rework on because if you all notice with the new concept, well, the first concept, the wing and the landing gear were integrated. And so when they went through the damaged states, they realized that if the wing was clipped or damaged, you were unable to land. So Elwin Batchelor III, 07 to Elwin, who was he was one of the participants in the Next Greatest Starship. He was a one-man show. He didn't win, but he won a job at CIG for doing concepts where his other opponents were three in a team. And he did the work on the rework on the Mustang variants.
And if you remember on that earlier version, Kimmy, one of the other failures, remember when you used to try to get into the Mustang from the bottom, it was so low that you couldn't. It was like a hatch on the bottom. It was kind of weird. You had to bend over, go up the ladder. Then when you got up the ladder, you had to turn 180 degrees to try to get to. It was really a mess.
It was a mess.
It was a mess.
It was a hot mess.
Yeah, and to your point, Agent 121370, bring back the old beta. Backing you up on that same thing that fastcart said. The thing that bothered me, I looked forward to the rework of the beta. I was so disappointed because the original one, people sometimes called it the Winnebago. It looked like a little, camper in the back, a camper, and it was it was warm, it was friendly. The thing that they came up with later was a much more colder design, just all metal, and it just lost personality. I mean, it's still nice, but the personality of it is just gone to me. It's gone.
I think that's the reason why most people prefer the classic one over the new one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they should have kept the back. Everything else was cool on exterior, but that back.
Yeah, I like the new fold-up wings and everything.
Yeah.
I actually tend to prefer colder, sleeker, more modern interior decorating on like anything, cars, apartments, starships.
I don't know. We got to let you get in the beta. Have you been in the beta yet? We got to let you see a beta. That might change your mind on the beta, because I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a nice design. I think if we hadn't seen the first one, probably would like the second one. But I think that Yeah. Well, all right, guys, we got to let her see a beta and see if she still says that later. All right, guys, next month we'll let you know if she changed her mind or not.
I got something with that. I got a story with the Mustang, guys. I got a little story to share. Interesting story. A fellow backer, I helped her with, she's in Germany somewhere, and I helped her with designing her computer, and she gifted me a Mustang Delta.
Oh, cool.
Isn't that crazy?
That's very cool. That's very, very cool. Just for helping her out.
EB says, do you really think the old versions, though, could support the new cockpit and UI?
Yeah, it was just really, to be honest with you, it was just the interior design in the back. And it didn't have to be the exact same thing, but I think that the feeling was it just became very, it lost its personality. That's all I'm saying. It became very monochromatic. Go ahead, fastcart.
Oh, I was going to say, it didn't lose its personality, it just gained a different personality.
Yeah.
It lost the personality that it had for a new one.
I mean, some ships... Go ahead.
Also, I just want to say, I forgot to mention that the Omega is a copy of the Gamma. It's another racing variant, except it has twin engines instead of just one engine, and different colors.
Yeah, you see those in the universe every once in a while. Somebody will fly out with one. I don't see them very often. It's like that in the kitty cat, like what's the kitty thing? What's that thing called? The Star Kitty. Everybody wants one now. It's the craziest thing to me. It is so crazy. Kimmy, I can see you on a Star Kitty, man. I can see you flying around on one. You don't think you'd fly on a kitty, man? Look at that face, y'all. he's like, are you out of your?
I know he's talking about fast. Come on, man. Come on now. But you know what? The funny story to that, Todd Pappy said he wanted to kill everybody in pink. So shout out to Todd Pappy. Star Kitty all day.
That's cool. Very cool. Well, here we go. Again, these were the two first ships. The Aurora and the Mustang were the first options that we had for ships. I'm going to go to the next ship, which is the next option that was given to us. And that ship is going to be the Reliant. Now, I know some people might be thinking Avenger, but the Avenger didn't slip into that. It was, some people said it was a great starter ship, but it wasn't officially looked at as a starter package ship. The Reliant came on board. And that's got an interesting, we're going to have a real interesting conversation about the Reliant, because I'm sure there's a lot of mixed feelings. But again, first commercial at the beginning was the original, and then the second half will be the other one. So let's take a look at that one.
Hey there, Glade. Oh, Glad. Yeah, Gladestone. Hey.
It has a lot of space in it.
Yeah, this was borrowed from the Xi'an technology.
adaptability, defined as being able to adjust oneself readily to different conditions. An invaluable asset in a constantly changing universe. From the Kourei to the Sen, the Mako, and the Tana, each model in Misk's Reliant family features advanced Xi'an designs. And the Reliant can acclimate to a multitude of purposes and situations. Contention, communications, discovery, and beyond. The universe we live in is always changing. Shouldn't you be? Misk Reliant.
Okay, Misk.
I don't have one, but I watched that commercial and I want one.
Okay. Why do you want one? You said what caught your attention about that particular ship?
I've been on the Reliant before, so I do know how it looks, but I honestly, again, I like aesthetics. I know, I'm sorry, y'all, I'm supposed to know all the stats and all that, but I don't. I like aesthetics. I like how it looks. It's very sleek. It's very modern. And I frankly like the pilot seat.
Yeah.
I do. I like that free-floating pilot seat where it's just there. That's pretty cool for me. So.
Okay. Fastcart, what about you? What are your thoughts on the Reliant?
No, I haven't. There's not a sordid history, but there's a bit of a history with the Reliant. You know, I think it was the Reliant Center or something like that.
The Sin.
It's the blue one, supposed to be the news variant.
Right.
It was the color scheme was in honor of a certain third citizen group that's no longer in operation. They renamed themselves. So yeah, I have mixed feelings for the Reliant. I like that it's the cheapest Misk ship that you can get, and I like the cargo space in it. But I haven't. I've used mine. I used mine as an LTI token.
Okay.
Something bigger.
Okay. And Kimmy, how about you? Any thoughts about the Reliant?
Well, I had the original Reliant, and the reason of my purchasing the Reliant, it held back to the old school game of X-Wing, where there was a mission disc or a download disc that had the B fighter in it. And if you go back to the old days of Star Wars, the B fighter was able to rotate and fly vertically. And so that kind of resonated with me with that type of ship. But when looking at it, playing in the game, it was not as fun as I thought it would be, even though the lore says that it lends from the Xi'an technology, and that's how they were able to kind of use those mechanics of rotating and make it fly vertically. But I guess I wasn't the only one who was a little disenchanted with the Reliant, because recently Sig mentioned that they gave a little more punch to the firepower of the Defiant. But I think one ship, though, one of the variants that do still stand out for me to say that it's worthy of buying, and that would be the Mako, the reporting vessel. You can capture real live video of events in the game, such as space battles and such.
Well, let me talk about that a little bit. You were going to say Mako. Is that what you're going to say, Fastcart?
No, I was going to say I personally was interested in the Sin version because I wanted a research vessel. I was hoping for something. I wanted to get the Endeavor. I had the Endeavor, but before I got it, I was interested in maybe a miniaturized version of the Endeavor, and I heard that the Sin was the research variant, so I was really interested in getting that. But I got one, and I'm not sure if but since I got the Endeavor, I'm not really interested in the Sin anymore.
Okay, gotcha. And it's interesting. A lot of people, when they do have a favorite career that they lend themselves to, they often do get the smaller or the medium and the large, just because of capacity and everything else. If you got a bunch of people, you can take the big one out. If it's just you can take the small one out. You know, there are, and Kimmy, you touched on this a little bit. There are 4 variants on this ship. There's the core, which is the original ship. There's the Mako, which is the news van. There is the Sin, which is the science vessel. And then the last one is the Tana, which is the fighter version of the ship. And it's interesting. I never hear anyone ever talk about the Tana, ever. I always hear people talk about usually the Mako because of the news van capability. And I know we're looking forward to seeing, especially people who do content creation. There are a lot of people who are curious as to how the news van aspect is going to work on it. The science, same thing for research. Those people who don't have the big money to go for the larger ship, what's the ship? The Endeavor. They can't enter into science and research using that. Now, I bought a core when it first came out. Like you, Kimmy, I love the idea of the Xeon technology being in it. I love the fact that it went from vertical to horizontal. I thought it was very cool. I love the fact also that you could carry another person with you. That was the other thing. It's a 2-seater for a starter ship, where all the other ones are single-seaters. So that drew me in, and I bought it. Of course, as we know, they did a rework on it. They expanded some things about it. The hatch in the back was too low. There were a bunch of weird things that they fixed and made it much nicer. And I still consider myself maybe wanting to have that ship because I was using it as a cargo runner. And then guess what? The Pisces came out. And then the Pisces has been the ship now that has dominated that for me. The other thing I didn't like about the Reliant was that it could not take hits. If that thing got hit, I used to think that, because of the design, it was so narrow, it would be hard to target, which it is. But if you get hit by a good cannon, that thing spins and it crashes out. And so the defensive capabilities, I wouldn't look for that ship as a fighter for me. I would look at it as if I'm doing some type of running data or whatever. I want to be able to get away, but I can take some hits and get away. But if you can hit me once or twice and I'm down, that's the thing that lost me about that ship in particular.
What you're saying is it's a TIE fighter of the Star Citizen universe.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it's sure not Next Wing. You're right. It's more of a TIE fighter when it comes to taking damage. Again, let me go down the list of asking you guys, if you were to pick one, which one would you take? Let's start with fastcart this time. If you were to take one, which one would you go with?
I would still take the Sun if I was had to pick one.
Okay.
For the same reason.
Okay, cool. Zatelia, thank you for following. Gigi, what about you? If there was one you would pick?
Probably the Tana.
The Tana, the fighter. Ooh, okay. All right. Kimmy, which one, bud?
It would have to be the Mako. Being able to take video footage and broadcast that, and potentially making money from that critical video footage. And it's kind of adrenaline rush to be able to record footage and then get away. So that has some interesting gameplay in itself right there.
Yeah. Shafranath, thank you for the subscription. Oh, awesome. Thank you for subscribing. It's great.
Is that our first?
It's our first subscription. Hey, first subscriber. Woohoo! Shout out. Thank you for that. That is awesome. And it's Marab. Thank you for following. Okay, let me throw this guys at you guys.
What about you, Griffin? What ship would you take?
Well, you know what? I was with the core originally, and then I got very interested in the Mako. Interested in the Sin. It's just that we don't have the science dynamics yet to determine whether that's a way to go. Not really interested in the other one as a fighter, the Tana. Here's my question for you guys, and maybe some of you all who are in chat who might be content creators or streamers or whatever, and to the panel. The Mako. High yellow design, color very visible, can be seen. Kimmy, you said if there's a battle, there's something going on, you want to go out there and shoot it, you want to cover it and get footage. Will the universe grant you the grace to do that? In other words, will they see a news van and say, hey, this is great, there's some streamer covering us? Or will somebody say, hey, blow that yellow ship up? Which one do you think the universe will do? Because to have the ship and be able to go out and cover things is a great idea, but if players don't allow you to do that, then what becomes, because it's not like somebody can come in and defend you. It's not like you can take fighters in and protect you. What do you think was going to happen with that?
I kind of hope on the grace of SIG establishing better radar and better cameras from a distance that can magnify. Outside of that, I'm going to rely on the color variations that I'll have privy to in the game. But outside of that, it's it's going to be tough to pull off. But still, I would attempt that because it's some compelling gameplay. It's an adrenaline rush. to pull that off. And if I can pull that off, who knows what the risk and reward is as far as being able to broadcast that to a bar or something while people are standing around in real time and seeing a battle go down. And then people say, oh, I got a vulture. Let's wait until the battle is done. Let's go in and grab our stuff and, you know, pilfer.
Okay.
But yeah, I got to do it regardless.
Okay.
Risk and reward. I'm going to do it.
Yeah. I'm going to throw a plug in for one of the groups that comes to my mind when I think about something like the Mako, and that's Relay, right? I mean, Relay's been around forever. Great news coverage. They've been covering Star Citizen forever. I think most people, if Relay's news van showed up, that's a plus. And there are a couple people here who have some comments in here. Titan says it depends on the group involved in the event, right? And he says, I believe some groups will revel in it and others are going to want to prevent it. And so, you know, whether or not that's something you arrange ahead of time and say, hey, we'd like to come out and cover it. But if people are doing covert operations, you're not going to know when they're doing that. You know, go ahead, fastcart.
Stole my answer. I was going to say something similar.
Sure, no, go ahead, jump in.
No, it's like if it's a group like a Relay, they're gonna have maybe people protecting the
security force.
Security force, exactly. So I'm hoping that if someone wants to try, they'll be discouraged from trying because of the security force. But if you're a lone streamer just trying to stream what's going on, I don't have much hope for someone like that surviving.
Okay. I'm laughing at Shiver's comment. He says, Eris made it compulsory for the folks at Relay to have a news Reliant. So
I believe it.
I just give you guys the automatic suicide mission, Shiver, I guess. I don't know. But no, that's an interesting idea. And again, when it comes down to the Sin, I'm like you, Fastcart. I'm curious to see what they start to develop with science and research. It's a beautiful ship inside. I mean, I will say this about the reworks. They did a really nice job on the interiors. I have not looked at the interior on the Tana, but they really did do a nice job on the reworks on them. I just want them to be a little bit more beefed up. I know you guys said that the weapons were beefed up a little bit so that they can take a little bit more punishment. But I might go back and get one. Who knows? And
may I make a couple of more points?
Yeah, sure.
Like I just want to say, as far as like the naming scheme, I've used to the lines that we covered so far. The Mustang variants have had the easiest to remember naming scheme. I mean, even though you don't know which one does what, you know, I'm gonna tell by the colors of them. Like this one is supposed to go fast or something like that. But there's no way you can tell the Sun, Core, Tana, what each of those ships that by the name. And same for like the lowest version, the CLLN, without looking at just look at the name, you can't tell which one does what. So I think that's interesting. Maybe a little disadvantage when it comes to ships.
Okay, that's a good point.
And also, one last thing. So far, I'm looking at the YouTube views. The first Mustang commercial had the most views, had 500K. And the other one so far only have 100K each.
Wow.
So for some reason, that Mustang one was the most popular. It's a beautiful commercial, but that's why the disparity is that high.
Yeah. I think that the
cockpit is beautiful.
The cockpit. That's a good point, Kimmy, because the cockpit in that one was one of the first ships that had a really nice clear view. I think that, and the next ship that we're going to talk about had some of the best views at the time. It'll be interesting to see how they develop out that series because there are, once again, Chris created this series of ships that all have their own purpose in the universe. So for those of you who are getting into the starter thing, that's it. Titan Deshay, thank you for following. Okay, we're going to move on to our next ship, and that will be Simon Le Bon. Thank you for following. We're going to go on to the next ship, which is the Avenger. Let me throw a disclaimer in on this particular video. For this particular video, there was really only one video that was produced by CIG showing it like a commercial. And it's the one for the Warlock, but most of us know that the ship is pretty identical. We'll talk about what the differences are in there are 4 variants of this ship, or 3 variants, and one of them's a skin or whatever. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's take a look at the Avenger.
life in the city. It comes at you at 1,000 meters a second. According to a recent study, the average city dweller is subjected to over 60,000 forms of stimuli on any given day. That much information beamed into your brain, it's not surprising that some people can react a little differently. Desmond Flay, known as Des to his friends and family, was by all accounts a quiet and respectful young man, which made his actions on March 8, 2938 even more surprising. It was described as a joyride like no other. A high-speed chase in the skies that covered several hundred miles of dense urban airspace. Within an hour, he had thousands of adoring fans who watched the authorities scramble to catch him. But Des saved his best surprise for last. When captured, local police asked why he did it. Des reportedly took a look around, smiled, and said, "I just wanted some peace and quiet."
Hey, the penguin.
See your...
Oh, cut it off a little early, but that's okay. All righty. What'd you call it, fastcart? What's the nickname for it?
Penguin.
The Penguin. Yeah, the Avenger. Nice. Yeah. You know, it's funny. Someone, J2 made a comment. Yeah, J2 made a comment saying, he said, this is a great commercial for an awesome ship. And you know, it's amazing to me. I think most of us have been victims to this, that CIG, if they've done nothing else well, they have done very well with their marketing for these ships, because sometimes there are ships you could care less about and you see the commercial for it and you're like, wow, man, I got to think about getting that. You know, this was one of those ships, and this was definitely one of those commercials.
You know, I said it before and I will say it again. I will continue saying this. Star Citizen is very fun and the game is great, but as much as these ships cost, they better put out real good commercials. If you want people to pay thousands of dollars for these ships, you better give me a commercial that makes me want to purchase that ship. Period.
Yep. Well, they've done well in that category for sure.
Matter of fact, they hired talent from the community.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. My story behind this, I'll go first this time around on the Avenger. This was actually the first ship I bought when I got into the game. I didn't go with a starter ship. And the thing that grabbed me about this ship is I'm a big space fan in general. I'm not talking about in relation to games, but I'm talking about in relation to like NASA and that type of thing. And it reminded me, it's such a throwback to the space shuttle with the black and white design. And just walking up close to it and seeing the tiles and things like that, it just really threw me into the whole space shuttle thing. And so I ended up, instead of going with that starter at $35, I think at that time, the Avenger, and if you guys correct me if I'm wrong, there was no Titan, there was no Warlock, right? You had the, which one is it? The one with the cages in the back with the cells. What is it called? What's that? The Avenger. Somebody help us out in chat. I'm having a brain fart here. There's the Warlock, the Stalker. Thank you. Thank you. Can always count on the chat. The Stalker. And at that time, it was just called the Avenger, but then it was later the Stalker. And if you guys remember, this ship was so out, the metrics on this ship were so bad that you could, if you got in the jail cell or try, you could, first of all, the jail cells didn't open. Then at one point they did open and you get stuck in them. And at one point you'd fall through the floor. At one point the door was too high. There were all types of crazy metrics that were off on the ship. And it wasn't until later when CIG went back and started saying, hey, we've got to make sure metrics work for, if it's an Aegis ship, it has this certain type of design, this certain type of metrics, so on and so forth. So that was my very first ship, $50 in at the time, I think it was. And then after that, I think that lasted maybe about a month, and I went to a Connie after that, I want to say. Anyway, Gigi, you've got an Avenger, right?
I do. I have a Titan.
Okay, talk about what you do with that thing.
I use my Titan when I'm running missions and I'm just doing, small things, and I'm just picking up cargo boxes or whatever, and it doesn't take me a whole lot of time or a lot of effort, and I don't want to spend a lot of money in fuel costs.
Mm-hmm.
So I just take the Titan out and, zip around the universe. She's small, she's agile, she's cute. She's my favorite ship that I own right now.
Now the question: Have you ever hauled cargo yet? I know you do deliveries, but have you ever gone to like a cargo terminal? You've never done the terminal yet, because I know you're still kind of new.
I've done the terminal. I've done
you have?
Cargo. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But not on my own. Usually,
okay.
If I'm hauling cargo, I'm out with other people.
Okay.
I just don't know how well I would do it that quite yet.
Okay. All right, so you've got the Titan. Kimmy, what about you? Any of the Avengers? You own any of them or had any of them?
No, I am not. For some reason, it's in my when I play the game, it's in one of the my list of ships, and I recently flown one, and I'm quite surprised in regards to how it handles, and it's very agile. I really like how it handles, but little story with the Avenger is that if you all remember going back to the vertical slice when they first introduced that, they had the Avenger in that vertical slice demo, and it also what had happened was that they had to go and do a rework of the Avenger, so it's a little bigger now, and it's more accommodating as far as getting into the back compartments and such, and the textures were a little more real. They look a little more realistic. And to what you said, Griffin Gaming, it does remind me, the texture, it reminds me of the space shuttle now. Even though that shape, it kind of is a condensed version of the space shuttle. But if you look at the textures now, those tiles, those heating tiles, it hits right there with the space shuttle. And it was a rework they did for the vertical slice because they were going to incorporate gameplay with that ship. And so, yeah, Avenger, man, if you decide on getting that as your starter package, I cannot be mad at you because it handles like a champ.
It does. And again, that ship, Mac Vault Dweller, thank you for following. One of the things that ship, when that ship came out, and you guys remember the lore on it, that it used to be the old law enforcement or police ship. In fact, in the commercial that we saw, if you see when they're pulling the Warlock over, there are other Avengers, and you'll see that they actually have the flashing blue and red lights on them like they're police ships. Nice. And so Aegis used to provide, it's an older Aegis ship that's been taken out of use in the sense of for law enforcement now and sold to civilians to be able to buy and use. Again, the original Stalker was designed as we were hearing rumors of it being a bounty ship. In fact, some of you might even remember that particular ship was supposed to be modular. You were supposed to be able to take the jail cells out of it and bring it into a cargo ship. And that's kind of evidently kind of gone by the wayside now. That's no longer there because they have ships that are dedicated to that now, the Titan and it. But we'll see. Maybe they'll put it back in. Who knows that they'll make it modular or not. The surprise ship, and give me some feedback on this, was the one we saw in the commercial, the Warlock. What do you guys think about that?
Warlock.
What do you think about the Warlock? EMP.
Not my gameplay.
Okay.
I think in combat, it's essential if you're going in a group, organized group. I have the Saber Raven, so for those who want that functionality to pretty much paralyze a ship in a group, it's essential. You'll need that because you may run up on someone or a rival NPC or backers, and you may be outskilled, and that could be your ace in the hole as far as nullifying or paralyzing ships for the moment, and while your teammates can barrel down on them and destroy them while they're paralyzed. But that's essential ship, so don't sleep on it.
Yeah, I actually very much and like them. For me, I'm not a big fighter. I'm more of a put you down and get out of town type of person. So the EMP for me is great because I will just shut you off and then disappear into the night, and you
Great
can deal
point,
with that however
GG.
you like.
Now, I will say this about the Warlock. I've seen people put that thing to use and shut ships down left and right. I've seen them shut down almost every ship there is. I'm not bigger ships, but I have seen them come up behind folks and shut them down. If you guys remember, even in the early days when we first got moons, do you guys remember ever hearing about people with their Warlocks flying over and disabling people's ships and they just crash
Falling
into
like
the
rocks.
surface and fall like rocks? Yeah. I mean, with someone who's skilled, it'll be interesting to see, as you mentioned, Kimmy, how that ship is used in gameplay. Also, it'll be interesting to see if you use more than one ship, whether there's greater impact in using them, particularly when you're trying to take down a larger ship. Right now, if I'm not mistaken, one EMP burst will not completely shut down some ships. You have to do multiples to get the shields down before it finally becomes vulnerable. And I'm also looking forward to see how much further they take EMPs in a bigger way. But the Warlock was a ship that I was very surprised to see that they converted and put that EMP unit in the back of it. But people love it. People bought it. And I've seen it out there being used in the verse.
May I rewind real quick? Because I
Sure.
had a chance to talk about my experience with
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. I'll just go back to the back of the bus.
No.
No.
You've been liberated from the back of the bus, by the way. Don't forget that.
I have the Avenger Titan, by the way, the same as Gigi, but for a completely different reason. It had the most cargo of the cheaper starter ships, and that's the reason why I got it. I never got the Stalker or when it was the only Avenger, but when the Titan came out, I looked at the specs for it, and I was like, okay. So yeah, that's of all the starter ships that I got that and G315P.
Okay. All right, very cool. Well, yeah, we've all had some experience in that particular ship. Very popular ship. A lot of people, like Gigi said, they take it as a solo ship. They do a lot of things with it, particularly just runs. Some people love fighting with it. The thing's got that Gatling gun on the front, and people love using the Gatling on that thing. It kind of blows my mind. But it is a very unique ship, and a ship that can be upgraded and modified. So a lot of people do like it. Do we have any questions in chat? Does anybody have anything? Did I miss anything? Because I kind of lost track of it. I think we're kind of there. My go-to ship, if I'm not PvPing, is the Cutlass Black. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, my. Okay, no, Avengers, Green Errands. Yeah, Cutlass Black is a good ship. It actually is a good ship. And we're going to get to those later. We're going to get to Drake and some of the other ones in some future shows.
Shout out to Josh Coons.
But yeah, basically that's it. Let me ask, before we wrap up for the night, if I can go down and ask you, out of all the ships we looked at tonight, if you had to pick one, that's the ship you're going to go with, which one would it be out of all the ones we saw tonight for the starter? Which ones would you recommend for somebody for a starter?
Okay, you're talking about
both
commercials?
No commercials. No, not just the commercials. Any of the ships, any of the Aurora series, any of the Mustangs. Tell me the ship you would recommend for somebody if they're starting out in Star Citizen that you think would be a good place to go. Come on, Kimmy, I'll start with you.
Well, I would stick with, as I said earlier in the show, I would definitely go in with the Aurora LN for the fact that it's very versatile and it feels like you're just starting, and it feels like you have to have goals in this game, and it lends to that realism in regards to it will allow you to run cargo. The hull, do not sleep on its hull. It can take a beating. And then the fact that you have extra missiles, you have a very robust power plant that will help your shields. You even have beefed up shields. So if I had to start and I'm a grinder in the game, it would definitely be Aurora LN.
Okay. All right, Gigi, on you. If there was one you were going to recommend for somebody coming in the game, and you're probably our newest player of about a year, so give us 9 months. So tell us what you would think would be the best one.
I am sticking with my Titan. Honestly, I love that Titan. I do. Because when I started and I had the Aurora, I liked the Aurora. It's like Kemi said, it does give you the idea that you better get good at this game if you want to get out of this flying brick. But when I almost immediately wanted to get out of the flying brick. So I wouldn't say to start with said flying brick. I would go with the Titan and sleek. It's easy to fly, and it's got the cargo space on it. Because when you first start out, you're not going to be doing a whole lot of heavy work. You're probably just going to be running deliveries and missions to build up your bank. So yeah, definitely with the Titan for me.
Okay. Fastcart, which one?
I want to give a more nuanced answer because it depends on if I'm talking to the person, what profession they want to do. If they want to do bounty hunting, I would say maybe an Avenger. If they want to do cargo running, I would say the Titan. If they want to do exploration, maybe the Reliant science version. So it depends on what the person would want to do. Out of overall, if it's just I had to pick one, I would say maybe the Titan.
Okay.
I will say I'm upset because I am a miner by trade, and none of the starter ships have anything to do with mining.
Yeah.
One thing is that I'm hearing that one day you'll be able to put a mining laser on one of the starter ships and just put directly into your cargo, but we don't have that yet.
Yep, that has come up because they did talk about, there was two things what Fastcart said, and the question did come up about a starter mining ship because they wanted to do the careers, just like you've got the science and you've got everything else. So we'll see. Maybe they will end up doing that because mining obviously is a good entry level point for people to make money in the game, make credits in the game, I should say. So that would be good. Real
quick, just do what J2 is saying. Like, I would suggest someone get a starter package, either the Aurora or the Mustang starter package, and then CCU that ship into the Titan.
Yep, that's good advice. Good advice.
Yeah, definitely.
You guys want to hear what ship I'd recommend?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I was about to ask you.
Uh-oh, here we go.
The Aurora ES, because people will think you're a noob and leave you alone. That's it. All right. Straightforward and simple. All right. Anything else has got a bullseye on it. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, I'm just kidding. To be honest with you, I almost have to fall back to that Avenger again. It's a great multi-Titan. It's a great multi-purpose ship. If you want to make money, you can, if necessary, even carry 4 or 5 people in the cargo section. They may have to stand up the whole time, but you can get them. Go ahead, Fastcart.
People, you can carry dead bodies too.
Yeah, dead bodies, cargo. You can see how many people can we pack into the back of a Titan. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with it. It is very easy to fly, and the view in it is very good. Kemi, to your point, they did a great rework on it because they did make it larger. They did fix that ramp in the back so your head wasn't conking on the top of it when you went in and out of the ship. And again, if it has modularity in the future, that'll be great. But if not, I think it's still a great ship. And bang for the buck. I think it's only $60, I think, to get into that.
65.
65, yeah. Winnetah Jack. I hope I said the name right. Thank you for following. So yeah,
I have to say, I'm surprised you picked that answer. I thought you for sure you would have said Reliant, so you could side seat drive everyone.
I don't side seat drive everywhere. Only half of where I go, not everywhere. Half of where I go. I leave people alone most of the time. I let them drive. If they're flying their own ship, I could care less, really. But if they're flying my ship, I'm going to have something to say about it. But anyway, that's a whole nother thing. But anything else? You guys want to share anything else before we close out for the night? If not, let me do this real quick. Let's talk about where we can find you. Fastcart, where can people see you, find you on the internet?
Before that, I just want to say my last thing is that the Star Kitten Aurora, that's where it's at.
All right, we're going to hold you to that.
No, you can find me on Twitter, fast_cart. I'm on Relay, ActivePub. On the base radio, I have a Flights of Rhythm set on the 80s show with Miss Hart at 8 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday. And I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Gigi, where people can see you?
You can find me on Twitter at GreenEyedGyal.
Speak up a little bit. You are talking so soft.
Can you hear me now?
That's much better.
You can find me on Twitter at GreenEyedGyal, so TE GreenEyedGyal.
And when do you stream?
Oh yeah, also on Twitch. I do stream. I don't stream every day. Every once in a while, I just stream video games, but generally in the afternoon toward the evening area, I stream mostly ESO and some Star Citizen. Clearly.
And last but not least,
DT, can you type in chat so people can click on you and follow? I know
Yep.
you did it earlier, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, type your Twitch in there for them to make it easier. And Kimmy, about you, buddy, where do we find you?
I'm hanging out on Twitch at all uppercase now at KEMI65 WDP Full, and you're going to see me on Twitch in the early evenings. I'm trying to refrain from streaming late night, but like early evenings, you'll see me on Twitch.
Okay, you're Eastern time. What time are you about? What time? Your Eastern time. What time?
I'm saying around 9, between 7 and 9 p.m.
Okay. And you might see, you might see more people out here now, especially with all that's going on in the world, where there's a little bit more time to stream. So you might see some of us out here a little bit more frequently. And you can find me on GriffinGamingRPG at Twitter and GriffinGamingRPG at Twitch. But most of my time goes here now at Soul Citizen. So anyway,
real quick, I have to include Shiva reminded me I do play a werewolf on his RPG that normally streams on Friday nights at around 7:30 Eastern.
What's the name of his show again? What's his channel? What's the name? What's the name of it?
Shiva Bathory. You click on Shiva Bathory's name and you'll find it.
Oh, you've got it down there already. Okay, cool. So you guys check out Shiver as well. Another great person from Relay SC. Awesome. Well, folks, we really appreciate you guys spending the evening with us on a Sunday again. We hope you really enjoyed the show. Thank you for all the different folks who threw in stuff. Hey, Miss Hearts, all the people who threw in comments and helped us out with things. We really appreciate you guys. We thank you for our first subscriber tonight. And thank you for all of those of you who followed. And look for us next week. We are hoping, like all Star Citizens, that 3.9 is out by next week. And if it is, we will hopefully be talking about that. And we're also going to be making an announcement about something new that we're going to be doing as Soul Citizens, where we're going to be playing live, and hopefully we can invite you guys to join us on that. So we'll talk about that in the future. But otherwise, you guys take care. Have a good night. Let's see who we can, if there's anybody we can raid tonight. Let's see who's on. Why don't we go to, let's send you guys over to, oh man, everybody's like watching something other than Star Citizen. This is kind of spooky. Can you guys give me somebody who's, yeah, I know, Captain Richard, everybody's like watching something else. What else do we have?
Got the
Fuse out there. Is the Fuse watching it right now?
Yep. I'm doing Star Citizen.
YouTube is having a special. They're showing a free movie every night.
Oh, YouTube is?
Oh, nice.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, I've got somebody I know who we can raid here. Hang on. All right, we're going to go over to Tessa D, hook her up. You guys say hi to Tessa when you see her. Okay. Thanks again, everybody, for hanging out with us tonight, and hopefully we'll see you guys next week. Everybody be safe, take care, and wash your hands. Peace. Peace.
Don't touch your face.
Oh, yeah. Mask, cover the mouth and nose.
Peace, love.
Mouth and nose, your mask.
Peace, love, and soul. Listen, I'm trying to say my plug. Peace, love, and soul. Good night.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Have a good night.
You guys are too funny.